Our story begins in the 1940s, after the end of the Holocaust. The Jewish population was scattered throughout the world. Many were persuaded to move to Palestine by the Zionist movement. In 1948, a territory with a large Jewish population called Israel proclaims independence. The same day it is attacked by Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon. This would later be known as the War for Independence. Then again, in 1967, Israel was again attacked by Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. The end result was an Israeli victory, and Israel took control of Gaza Strip and Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, the West Bank from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria. And again, in October of 1973, on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish religion, Israel was attacked by Egypt and Syria.
On November 19, 1977, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat arrived in Israel to discuss peace.
In the past, yes, we didn't agree to your being here. But now, I came here to tell you that we agree.
This was the first time a president of an Arabic nation stepped foot on Israeli land and thus recognizing Israel. In Israel, Sadat delivered a speech about the possibility for peace between the two nations.
Of course, Egypt is the largest and strongest Arab country neighboring with Israel, and we are very interested in having peace with Egypt and friendship too.
In September of 1978, the president of Egypt, Anwar al-Sadat, and the prime minister of Israel, Menachem Begin, traveled to Camp David in Maryland. There, in the presence of U.S. President Jimmy Carter, they negotiate a framework for peace in the Middle East.
One of the agreements that President Sadat and Prime Minister Begin are signing tonight is entitled A Framework for Peace in the Middle East.
The Camp David Accords had 5 main points to its treaty. The first point was about how there shall be a transitional period where the Israeli military forces would gradually evacuate from the Sinai Peninsula. This period truly lasted from March 1979 to April 1982. Next, both countries decided to never use violence to solve any problems between them. And then, even though Israel didn't control the Sinai Peninsula, it was still allowed to sail up the Suez Canal. The next part of the treaty encompassed how the construction of a highway was established from Sinai to Jordan. And last but not least, it decided how the two countries would station their respective military forces. The Camp David Accords are very important diplomatic negotiations that even to this day, they cause peace between Israel and Egypt.
Salam, shalom, and to peace.
Another conflict in the Middle East is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This conflict traces back to biblical times, where the Jewish people claimed the land of present-day Israel. They were made to leave their land many times, and the absence of the Jewish people, Arabic people started to claim the land. This tiny little speck of land was sacred to 3 of the world's biggest religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It was fought over many times throughout history. Until recent times, Arabic people controlled Palestine.
When the Jewish people started to return to their Holy Land in the 20th century, there became a question. The question was, to whom does the land belong to? The people that were here first, or the people who lived on the land for a much longer time and are living here currently? Both sides believed they were right, and after the Jewish people forcefully gained control of much of the land, the Palestinian people who were forced out of their homes rebelled many times. To support the cause of the Arabic people, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, or PLO, was created to try to force the Israelis to leave. The people of both nations wanted peace, but were not willing to leave. On August 20, 1993, Yasser Arafat, chairman of the PLO, and Yitzhak Rabin met in the Fafo Institute in Oslo, Norway. This was the first face-to-face meeting of the two sides. In the meeting, the people agreed for the creation of the Palestinian National Authority, which would govern the West Bank and Gaza. In exchange for this land, Palestine was to end terrorism. The document that was created in Oslo was officially signed in Washington, D.C.
The time for peace has come.
About 4 years later, on September 24, 1995, another document referred to as Oslo II was signed in the city of Taba on the Sinai Peninsula, property of Egypt. It was signed again 4 days later in Washington, D.C. by Ehud Barak, the new president of Israel, Bill Clinton, and Yasser Arafat, as well as representatives from Russia, Jordan, Egypt, Norway, and the European Union. Some of the things agreed upon in this document were the creation of a Palestinian council whose representatives were elected by the people, the guaranteed safety of the people of both sides of the border, how the court or justice system worked in the new territories, how both sides would cooperate with each other, for example, the education in schools, and finally, the safe travel for any person between West Bank and Gaza.
The diplomatic history of Israel is very complex and is filled with many successes and many failures. The Camp David Accords were very successful because they caused peace between Egypt and Israel. On the other hand, the Oslo Accords were not successful because they have failed to produce peace. So why were the Camp David Accords successful and the Oslo Accords not?
In the Camp David Accords, both Egypt and Israel are countries with governments that are recognized by other countries in the world. Both have well-defined borders and regular armies. The armies are controlled by the government. Both Egypt and Israel recognize each other's right to exist, and both countries do not like the havoc caused by the wars between them. Both sides had many interests in common which enabled them to reach an agreement and carry it out. In the case of the Israeli-Palestinian relationship, we see that Israel is a country, while Palestine is not recognized as a country. Israel has a regular army, whereas Palestine has several disconnected military groups that are not under the control of the main governing body. Palestine never recognized, and to this day still doesn't recognize Israel's right to exist. So both sides had many differences and contradictory goals. Therefore, even though the peace agreement was reached, it could never be carried out.
After this project was created, the political situation in Egypt has changed. President Mubarak has left office on February 11, 2011. With the current turmoil in Egypt, it is hard to tell what the new Egyptian government will be, and whether it will still support peace with Israel.
There is still hope for peace in the Middle East.